Regardless of your industry, whether you work with customers, residents, clients, or patients, no reviews is a big red flag. With Widewail, getting reviews is as simple as turning it on. First, we automate by integrating with your existing technologies. Send personalized SMS or email requests based on custom reviewable event triggers. Seamless for your reviewers, no more manual work for you. Revel in higher ratings, better search engine rankings, more organic website traffic, and more interested buyers with a performance-based reputation strategy. A win-win, win-win.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another ASOTU Edge webinar. So excited that you're here. Today is going to be a reputation management masterclass talking about benchmarks, strategies, and how dealerships are leveraging AI in 2025. We're here with our friends at Widewail. Matt Murray, the CEO, is going to be joining us, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Paul and Kyle to take it away.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. Kyle, this is kind of a topic that we just discussed personally all the time. Number one, because we're consumers, but we're always paying attention to sentiment. Like,
yeah,
nonstop.
and I love Yelp. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, what?
Oh man. No, when we talk about reputation, it's always a trailing indicator for the way we're doing as organizations, but it's a leading indicator for the change matrix that's necessary to do better. And so it is such a hindsight is 2020 opportunity and driving more from a reputation perspective, asking for more conversations, understanding what's going on inside your business from real people that are doing business with the people on the front lines is so critically important to like just getting better overall.
And I can't think of one thing that I bought. And I think anyone watching this today, there's not one thing that you've bought or where there was a line or two from someone who already bought it that you didn't read. And
right.
You actually didn't consider, and like we all can skim reviews, right? You could tell which ones are written by a bot and you can tell which ones are written by the company that's selling the product. Like we just like sort through that naturally now. And so if you don't have a volume of reviews, right? Like it actually works against you, I think, if you don't have the ones where you're like, that's a real person that had a real experience because they talked about a specific item. And on top of that, you never know which one of the reviews is going to hit the question that the customer has. Like sometimes it's a question about speed of delivery. Sometimes it's a question about quality of product. Sometimes it's a question about in automotive, like how easy was the finance? Were the salespeople pushy? Was the vehicle great? Like, so, I don't think you can have enough reviews. And I also don't think you can spend in this AI world that we're living in now, you can give enough attention to like real human reviews, because I think naturally we can kind of sift through them pretty
natural language conversation. You've been saying volume a lot. We're talking to Widewail today, who the volume that they are consuming and looking at and the data they've scrubbed through is over 8.1 million reviews. So they know a couple, two, three things about this stuff. Hey, let's go ahead and bring in Matt Murray from Widewail, our good friend. Welcome to the show.
Sunny Vermont.
What's up, guys?
Oh my goodness.
Look at the palm trees.
You got us on our one sunny day of the winter.
I mean, but the palm trees kind of like give it a different vibe.
Hula, baby. Yeah.
Hula.
You gotta have
that's a great place. I've been there a couple of times, and it's a great setting to work and be in for sure. Yeah.
Oh, so thanks for joining us. I know we don't have a lot of time on this webinar today. We'll get to it. Can you just give us the 30,000 foot view of Widewail, like the whole picture?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the fundamentals of what we do are really rooted in helping a dealership present the authentic view of what it's like to be a customer. Right. So oftentimes we're talking to dealers who haven't had a great review generation strategy, or they're not involved in the conversation and taking care of customers post transaction. And Widewail automates all that, makes it really easy for them. And on the back end, core to what we're going to talk about today, we're actually using all that unstructured data to figure out how they can get better. In the perfect world, Widewail creates trust between that dealership and the community that they serve.
I like that, the authentic experience, what it is to authentically be a customer. Because I think a lot of times the review, it's like, well, what did you think about this one thing? Instead of the broad picture, what's it like to be, like people say that, I've heard, I don't know if it's David Long or like, it's like a leadership thing. Ask yourself, what is it like to work for that person? And this is the same question. What is it like to do business with me? Right? Because we have it sounds like that's exactly what you're saying you do. So we do have slides to help everyone who's on this webinar follow along, move through. Maybe we pull those up and we'll talk about, just generally speaking, we'll talk about the basics of strategy. We're going to go down through analytics, and we're going to kind of compare some dealer groups, and you're going to share some results with us. So we will be, just so you know, we will be posting the deck so that you will have access to this later if you're signed up and you're here and you're watching, just so you don't feel like you have to, take screenshots and copy. We'll make sure you have everything you need. All right.
Yeah.
So
let's start with this because, obviously, probably since the advent of the internet lead, we've started recognizing that also on the back end of the digital is the reputation side. Obviously, Yelp was an early thing, and then Google got heavy into it. What's the current state of the union for what dealers are getting from a review perspective and how those are kind of flowing?
Yeah. So 2012, I think Facebook took over as the largest review site in the world. So it became, an opportunity. But at that point, there wasn't great demonstrable ROI besides what's my score and volume. That's what dealers were focusing on. It was sort of an ego thing. Around 2017, Google really invested in the GBP and became the largest review site in the world. And maybe better than that, digital marketing outcomes became really clear. So dealers started to understand that review volume, frequency, quality, your response strategy actually fed GBP visibility. So today, Google first, as with most things. But then for dealers that we consult with, we say, look, take a look at your web analytics. Where's your referral traffic from? You're worried about, easylocal.com and name, address, phone alignment and reviews on that site. When's the last time you actually got a visitor from that site? And you can find really quickly, there's probably 10 sites that really matter, with Google leading the charge by far.
Yeah. So when we look at it, obviously people are looking for review volume. I think we've got a slide on what typical dealers are getting right now and how that plays into the total volume of what you guys have to analyze.
Yeah. On this slide, you see that very first bullet there, focus on the metrics that matter. There's a little bit too much focus, or there has been historically, on total volume. So a dealer says, hey, I have 300, they have 500, I must be losing. That's really not how it works today. What's most important is frequency. You need to get reviews on a regular basis to tell Google that you're open and you're doing a lot of transactions and you really care about customer experience. So set that bar high. You see it on the slide. We're going to show you, but to be a leader, you need to be in that 40 to 60 reviews a month window, which really, honestly, is not that difficult. If you're selling 100, 150 cars, you have 1,500, 2,000 ROs, the conversion percentage there is pretty small. And this, this chart, this is a lot of fun, right? So this is 8 million reviews. And what we wanted to show
all in one slide.
Yeah, here it is. Here's our industry. And if you're getting 58 or more reviews per month, you're in the top 10. The average Widewail dealer you see there at 42. And then in our industry, you got to go all the way down to 10 or 11 a month on Google to find the average. Right? So it's not that hard to be above average. It is very important to be above average, right? And then on the rating side, dealers are approaching that 4.9. That puts them in the 10%. The average dealer is just shy of 4.6. That waggles a little bit. That has seasonality in it. So there's more negative reviews in the summer than there are, let's say, Q4, Q1.
Why is that?
Yeah, we have a theory there. Think about the store. Foot traffic gets way down. We don't sell as many cars in January, February. So when a customer comes in, they've got everybody at their beck and call, right? We're going to give you an exceptional experience because we don't have as many customers to deal with.
Wow,
and then we hit,
okay.
When it gets to May, the first sales spike of the year, the weather gets nice out, everybody buys cars, more negative reviews come in because operational tempo is up.
Wow. It's selling season hurts us. At some level, that's
from a
kinda
review
crazy.
from a review standpoint. That's exactly the
Right.
correlation. I mean, I think that little insight right there.
Like, pay attention in the summer.
I know, just like in the morning meeting. Hey, everybody, just so you know, reviews tend to go down this time of year. Today, these weekends, we're about to be busy. What little things can we be doing to like pay a little extra attention, notice people's body language? Because typically people will show it in their body language if they're not happy. I mean, obviously some people never will and they're just going to review it. I think that little insight right there, you just breezed by it. But I mean, I think we're coming up on it too, right? It's February 12th, right?
That's right.
That season's coming. Wow.
But
Just a
it's
little
you know,
nugget.
some of it, I think it has to do with staffing too, right? So if we're selling a bunch of cars and we're stacking people up outside the box to finish paperwork,
Oh, it's the worst.
that's not a good feeling. Or, you know, everybody's brought their car in to get their oil change, whatever. Like the wait times just get longer because there's so many customers.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to like the analysis that you guys are doing, because because you have the access to so much data, you guys are you've taken an effort over the last really, I think, year to really dive into what the analysis is. And obviously with the advent of AI, you're able to leverage that as well. So talk about like why and how you're kind of getting into this data and exposing it for yourself and dealers.
Yeah, it was frankly, a little bit of a dream early on. So in 2019, we found this PhD candidate at Princeton who just needed a bunch of data because she wanted to do an NLP focused capstone project. So we sent over 10,000 reviews to this woman, which, by the way, we were so excited about. Like 10,000 reviews felt like a lot at that time.
Yeah.
And she did a basic analysis, which a lot of the findings in that analysis hold up. So 10,000 reviews weren't a bad snapshot of the industry, which is pretty interesting. But
Yep.
yeah, over the years, we said, how do we get more data, right? Like, can we go out and collect every customer's review so that we can start to provide insights back to the industry? Just passion project. And we started consuming all reviews probably second half of 2023. But today, every single month, we bring every Google review for every new car dealership in the United States into Widewail. So our staff, right, when we talk to a dealer, let's say, whatever, Heritage Ford down the street, we actually pull them up in our dashboard. We can see who their best employees are. How does sales perform against service? What are the key topics their customers talk about? And just have a better conversation with the dealer. So over time, reviews as a basis, we've added a private survey product. We're starting to explore other sources of interactions. You see emails. What about phone transcripts? How can we get all customer interactions into a single platform and, provide great insight to the dealer on how to improve?
It's interesting. I'm thinking about the opportunities with a lot of these AI and automation tools to make something that feels a little bit more pleasant to solicit a review, or actually speak to someone about it. And I feel like it's just starting to open up that you all are going to be pretty busy in the next 24 months trying to figure that out.
Those are fun moments, right? Too many ideas. Right.
Trust us. That is a symptom of a much deeper disease that we all have, the three of us.
So what's it say? Like when you pull all this in, like what's the prevailing topic? What's the thing that everybody's after? And what do we need to work on?
Right. So, the way this works, take those 8 million reviews first, couple AI and a model, right? So like we need to tell GPT how car shoppers, owners, service customers talk, so it can then spit back topic tagged reviews. So take 8 million reviews, find out what everybody's talking about. Are they talking about communication or wait time, something of that nature? And from that, we can then calculate the mention percentage. So forget Profit Center for a second. How often do people talk about communication, just as a benchmark across the dealership?
Right. And for those who may have looked away from the screen or whatever, because we have a slide up here, but for instance, if someone says something like, I didn't hear from the dealership, right? Communication issue. Or if the person says, and it's here on the slide, took longer than expected. Great. We're going to tag that of a negative sentiment towards wait time, right? I just wanted to make sure we made that clear and didn't just skip past it for, people who might be watching that missed that little section of it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then, there's about 27 total topics. There's 27 things that customers of dealerships talk about. We'll create the benchmark in terms of total mention percentage for each topic and then break it out into cohorts. So those cohorts can be the obvious, right? Like sales versus service. Could be luxury versus non-luxury. Really any way that we want to slice and dice the data to figure out EV versus ICE. We'll talk about that in a minute to figure out the variations from that benchmark. And the next slide, Kyle, to your point, it really boils down to what you see here, the top 5 positive topics, the top 5 negative topics. What drives great experiences and less than satisfactory experiences? You can see some things are common. Staff shows up on both sides. So
number one on positive, saying like the thing people mention the most about a positive is the person they work with. That tracks back to whenever Kyle and I do man on the street interviews. Everyone always mentions what was the best thing about your last thing. They always say their salesperson, but also it's number 2 on negative sentiment. So that's so it's either it's good or it's not, and it's 75% of the time a positive review mentions the staff, and 25% of the time if there's a negative review, mention the staff.
You know what else is interesting here is if somebody has a positive experience, they're going to use the name of their service advisor or their sales associate. If it's negative, they'll just say the team, the service department.
That makes sense.
Right?
It's just natural conflict avoidance, human conflict avoidance. Bobby was great. They're not like, Bobby was a douche, right? They're not going to say that.
Right. Totally. So staff are on both sides, communication on both sides. Those are core to customer experience. So we spend a lot of time talking about that. And we spend a lot of time saying, look, like if you're thinking about your 2025 plan, you're a car dealer, maybe you don't have to worry about valet service yet. Let's worry about communication in the service department. Let's make sure we tell people that their car's down off the lift and they can come pick it up. Remember that basic blocking and tackling that impacts the vast majority of customers can really have the largest impact.
You know what's most shocking here to me is that money, finances, how much I paid,
nowhere,
how much it costs, none of this.
Not on either list. I got a great deal isn't one of the top 5 things.
Yeah,
that's wild.
We track it, and we can talk about kind of how sales customers view price differently than the cost in the service department, but it's not a key driver for sure.
Wow, how about that? All right,
that's a big deal.
Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, so we talked on the, if you actually go back one slide, let me highlight knowledge. So knowledge is an interesting one. Shows up as number 4 in terms of drivers of positive experiences. So we want to just kind of zoom into knowledge a little bit on the next slide. And you can see, so we were talking about topic density as a benchmark. This 15%, that's the number of positive, or the percentage of positive mentions of knowledge in a service or sales experience. So that's the cross dealership benchmark. When we break it into its cohorts, service and sales cohorts, you can see knowledge is so much more important in sales. And we've talked about this a bit, but negativity around knowledge is on the rise in EVs, is on the rise generally because we've asked so much of our salespeople, right? So this is a great slide to kind of zoom in on that a little bit. This is the EV experience versus the ICE experience. So the way to look at this is all the way on the left, those big yellow bars, there's 76% more negativity around the salesperson's knowledge.
Wow.
When you're an EV customer. So our customer's saying like, look, I just really want to know what the range of this trim level is. And my salesperson has no idea. Right? And as you move to the right on this slide, you see there are advantages. So EV customers feel like they're getting a better deal. There's more positivity around the deal. That's great, right?
Makes sense.
There's incentives there, right?
And all that stuff. Yeah,
totally. And then of course, in sort of the price, cost, and car maintenance side, those are less negative. It seems like the EV is easier to take care of. A lot of over-the-air updates solve some problems. Like there's just seems to be a little less on the moving part side.
And I think this is huge for me because, well, one, it comes back to training your people, get your people good or get good people type phrasing here. But, we've seen this migration back to in-person shopping, right? We saw this rise in digital shopping and then migration back to an even more important with an EV sale because the in-person shopping is not just looking for like, oh, I want to go drive the car. It's I need someone that can help me gain the knowledge necessary to purchase it. And that's like a core driver of the visit, of the interaction with a salesperson. And so like leaning into that as any organization, it seems like is extremely important here.
I'm with you on that.
I think it's so on this graph that's right, or this chart that's right up, we have knowledgeable, 76% more negativity. And then right next to that at 73% is helpfulness. Knowledge is one thing, but helpfulness is a much broader umbrella that people put on an experience overall. Not they just didn't know about the product, but the two are tied at the hip, right? If you can't answer my question, I feel like you're not very helpful, which is I think almost a worse thing because it's an umbrella sentiment, and it's not you just didn't know how much range this car had. It's like, you weren't very helpful. Which I think
because maybe you could have gone to find out for me real quick, but you didn't. Right.
That's not. I mean,
helpful.
I can find out. I have ChatGPT on my phone.
That's unbelievable. So now you break it down into a few more cohorts that we've got some slides for across brands, public groups, people that we're looking toward. What are like the trends toward and who should we be looking to that's doing a great job out there?
Yeah, Lexus. 2 years in a row, they've earned the top spot on the brand scorecard. And there's two key points I think to make here. If you look at the professionalism bar and positive reviews, that's that really tall 36%. Lexus customers report that staff is so much more professional at the Lexus Center. That stands out well above benchmark and certainly surpasses their competitors. But beyond that, Lexus is amazing in the service department. So much less negativity. It's 28% less negativity around the actual repair. And, it goes without saying, you can kind of see it on the slide, but Lexus Centers produce 27 reviews per month per store at what is a relatively lower volume than some of the larger brands. Yeah. They really care. These stores do a great job getting their customers to advocate for them. The fact that a Lexus Center has more reviews on a monthly basis than a Toyota store.
That's wild.
That is wild. Wow.
Yeah. Right. So that raised our eyebrows a little bit. Call out to the score. 4.7 is great. Score is not the most important thing. And we can't drive that home enough. In fact, I'm still in this camp of 4.9 is a little too high. It looks kind of fake.
There's not enough real there.
Like 4.7 starts to feel more believable. What do you think is the lowest range that people still consider a good score? Like what is that? What is that mark?
Yeah, if you're getting below 4.3 today, you're starting to get towards the bottom of the barrel.
People think something's wrong, right? At 4.3.
Totally. We still have dealers that are, there's dealers in the industry that are under a 4.0, and there's just no.
Once you get in threes, it's over. What
are we doing?
Yeah. All right.
Let's like you said, there's no need for it. It's really just focus and attention problem, right?
Totally.
At that level. Yeah. I'm telling you what, if I've got a Lexus store in my group, I'm going and visiting that thing like tomorrow. For sure.
No doubt. Let's talk about Hendrick. You have some data here on why they're outperforming Asbury on 6 out of 8 key topics.
This is actually going to be my moment to kind of poke you guys, because we look from the outside and say, look, we've collected all the reviews. We've done this for a few groups and manufacturers as sort of side projects, but it sort of blew my mind a little bit to see such dominance across all of these categories. Certainly on the positive side, it looks like Asbury's doing a great job of communication. On the negative review side, they're doing a good job on the management team. But to see Hendrick here beating them in 6 out of 8 categories, there's a tie in 2. The question of what's going on is good for us to discuss. Is this process? Is it culture? What is it about Hendrick that creates this type of overperformance? Because certainly Asbury is a great group, right? Yep. But our customer is saying Hendrick just delivers a better customer experience.
Man, I know the Hendrick organization just a bit more than I do the Asbury organization. I know that they've got a little bit more of a centralized philosophy for how they do business, where Asbury is as a public group is more decentralized. So I think you get some advantages out of that. And you see some of these 30 to 75 rooftop groups really starting to centralize experience, centralize training, centralize how they do business, why they do business the way they do it. You see Hendrick stores have Hendrick out front of them. You're at a Hendrick store, you're in a Hendrick experience. And I think, leaning into that as consolidation happens, I think allows you to have some of these wins across a group more consistently. But Hendrick also has a pretty strong marketing department that kind of leans into this type of interaction with the customer, I believe. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with them as you are, but definitely very familiar with the way a lot of the publics operate versus a lot of the large independents. And I don't think you can give enough credence to the fact that a unified experience in brand from place to place to place, there's an accountability mechanism there that's naturally built in. Because if you have two stores that are owned by the same group but have different names on them, there is a lot less accountability. Hey, you're messing up our name. There's actually not that much care. But when the name is on the store, I think that there's always someone paying attention, realizing that somebody else is going to hear about it if this person, it's going to come back to me somehow. If I mistreat a customer, if I'm not paying attention, because the name's on the building, it's going to actually make its way across the street, or what they did right or wrong is going to make its way across the street to me at some point. So I think that's a great insight, Kyle. It's an accountability mechanism that I think naturally is going to raise the bar.
Yeah. What jumped out to me as I was looking at this data too is it appears, you mentioned training, Kyle. It appears that there is a Hendrick way of doing business when you see 27% more positivity around knowledge. The staff is really well trained, and then 20% less negativity on wait time. We care about our process. And that's got to be an executive team down thing. This is how we do it at Hendrick, and we're going to hold you to that standard.
Yep.
That's awesome. Right. Absolutely.
All right. So what can people take away? What do we do now? Right. How do we make sure that this is a win for us as a dealership or dealer group?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned early on, Kyle, the fact that this data can help us shape our future. And I think, for years, I know that reputation management has sat in this bucket of great digital marketing outcomes make me good online. And that was sort of the end of the conversation up until the past 2-3 years when we started really doing the analysis to figure out what people are saying. So when we talk to dealers today, it can be as tactical as hey, you have a brand refresh coming up. Let's take a look at how your customers rate the facility today. And then let's take a look 6 months after you've completed construction and see if we've made a real impact in the customer's perception of our facility. Or, hey, we're going to install a new communication tool and service to keep in touch with the customer, do a better job of updating them through the process. Let's go back to the data and see if the customer supports the install of that or the training around that. All right, so map your initiatives to actual customer outcomes using voice of the customer data. That's kind of the core message here.
That's awesome.
Well, there you go. It is. These things always go so fast. I look up at the clock. I'm like, okay, that's going to be what it is. Matt, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, sharing all this data, 8.1 million reviews aggregated in one spot to deliver some insights, actionable insights to the people in the industry watching this and getting the recording later. It's fun. It's a topic that's close to our heart, and it's always good to have conversation with you. So thanks for sharing.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Regardless of your industry, whether you work with customers, residents, clients, or patients, no reviews is a big red flag. With Widewail, getting reviews is as simple as turning it on. First, we automate by integrating with your existing technologies. Send personalized SMS or email requests based on custom reviewable event triggers. Seamless for your reviewers, no more manual work for you. Revel in higher ratings, better search engine rankings, more organic website traffic, and more interested buyers with a performance-based reputation strategy. A win-win, win-win.
All right, y'all, that's a wrap. We hope you learned a lot, especially when we're talking about 8 million reviews. So if you missed it, or if you have a friend that needs to see it, go ahead. You'll be able to grab it on our website. Go to ASOTU.com, click on media, and then click on webinars. We'll also pass it out in an email. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next time.